This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello, welcome back to this latest edition of Red Side of the Trent. Here to discuss all the latest news and goings on around the club. We're going to cover Igor Jesus finally signing for the club. That's been a done deal. Hopefully, Jair to follow. Tyler Bindon has gone to Sheffield United on loan. There's still obviously the big rumour of Anthony Elanga looking like he's going to go to Newcastle. Lewis O'Brien potentially going to Wrexham and becoming a Disney star, Disney Plus kind of star with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. And then we're going to do something a little bit fun in terms of a worst Forest 11 where, I mean, I'll be judge and executioner, I guess, on this one because I'm not sure if I'm going to take too much part in it. But joining me is Christian Brown and Reese Lane as ever. Reese, how are we?
I'm good, mate. Yourself? How was tough order yesterday?
I'm absolutely aching. I must say thank you very much for everyone who's donated so far. I mean, raised a massive amount of money, but yeah, very, very achy. But I enjoyed it, mate. It was fun. I recommend it to anyone who's a bit of an adrenaline buff, maybe fitness buff. Christian, are you all right?
Oh. Yeah, all good here, mate. Thank you. Yeah, we're
good. How was your drunken escapade at the cricket?
Oh yeah, it was worthy after losing in abysmal fashion. But yeah, fun that was the same.
Oh yeah, so fun. We was meant to have Lee Clark. He can't join us. He's heavily involved in the tennis this summer, but we'll hopefully get him back sooner than later. Reese, we'll start off with yourself. Igor Jesus has finally signed. Glad to get that one done over the line, should I say? And then hopefully, if reports are to be believed, that means Jai Cunha will follow and sign a 5-year deal as well. What have you made of that all? Glad it's done. Kind of starts the process now. Everyone can stop moaning.
Yeah, it's one player amongst several that we kind of need to bulk this squad out with some quality, you'd hope. Let's be honest, we don't know a lot about him aside from he's played a handful of times for Brazil, scored I think one goal, which was against Paraguay, or was it Chile? I think might have been
Chile.
Yeah. Playing red and white, same country. And yeah, a few fans are watching this Club World Cup, which personally I've got no interest in, and he's obviously scored against PSG, who are the flavour of the month at the minute because they're such a brilliant side, aren't they? As we saw by the Champions League final. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because, as we mentioned on the last pod, he's kind of halfway in his season with Botafogo. He's got to come to a new country and kind of settle in. And so you're hoping he kind of doesn't wear out become end of the season like the squad did this season, really. But we probably might have to have an element of patience with him. But you're hoping he's going to come in and challenge Wood and take some of that load off him. And for the fee, what we're paid, rumoured around £10 million. You'd think it's good business, but until obviously you see these players, it's you can't really make a judgment, can you? But yeah, it's a decent start, and hopefully, Jai Cunha can follow, and you look in him to be really make the comparison, but something like a Murillo, aren't you? Really, that's the hope when you sign these players that they're going to go on and get to kind of towards that level. So yeah, it's good to see that things are moving and. At least we've got one in through the door before I'm guessing we go back, which will be tomorrow, I'd imagine, to pre-season.
I guess with Igor Jesus, it's because he's now been pretty much up to speed. He's already had like half a season. You shouldn't worry about him in too much of getting match sharpness and all that. And with the rotation of one and maybe and hopefully, if either a one year is part of our team or we get another striker in, then Igor might not kind of feel the the stress of Premier League football and European football as well. But I guess like that's easier said than done with
it's
new
just
league
about
and new things.
Yeah, it's just about adapting to the Premier League, isn't it? The Premier League's ruthless, so we'll have to see. There's been plenty of players who come from South America. The one who rings in my mind as a striker is Gabriel Barbosa, who came into Europe and it didn't work out for him, but he was scoring, his Gabby goal over there once he was scoring a hatful. So until these guys come over really and they play, you don't kind of know what's going to happen. But from a Forest perspective, you're hoping he comes over and is a flying success, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Christian, it was kind of like the Macarena with Jair. If he's going to come, it was like, is he coming? Is he going? Is he staying? Is he coming? It looks like he's going to come and sign a 5-year deal as well. I mean, that would be good, and then hopefully that starts, like as I said, the conveyor belt going, and then we've got to talk about Anthony Elanga, I guess, which has been we've spoke about this loads recently. I mean, it's never ending. It's the saga of the summer so far for ourselves.
Yeah, it's I think it's been more drawn out on Newcastle side. It has rather than ours. I feel Forest have been pretty relaxed about the whole thing. Just gone, look, if they pay the price, they'll get the player. They want to do a song and dance about trying to avoid doing that. They can do that, but the situation remains exactly the same. I mean, even now, like you look at all their journos again, saying how deal's basically done and this, that, and the other. And then Ornstein comes out and says they're in dialogue, but nothing's signed, nothing's agreed, and it still works on the player side as well. So it's very easy to see who the club journalists here and who the actual journalists with news that is objective and fair. But it does certainly seem that, I mean, if we're talking 5 million now away, you'd think Newcastle would just pay that because, it's for a Premier League team, it's not a massive amount of money. So, yeah, obviously we have to prepare ourselves for that, but I'm sure we will. Obviously, the Guardian have come out and said that we want Bakayoko if that happens. Obviously, hopefully can get agent Sangare to try and put a few good words in, which after his time at Forest might be easier said than done. But at least he started to sort of bed in now. Yeah, it's obviously a shame. I think some of the discourse around it's not ideal. I think people sort of realise that where we sort of are in the food chain, unfortunately. I don't want to see Elanga go. Of course not. I think he's a very important player for Forest. He's only going to grow and get better. But no, we can't also say that, we really like the Brighton model. Well, everyone likes the Brighton model until you actually have to sell these players. And that's where we are now. And all we have to hope is that the recruitment team get the replacement right, because that's where it matters most. It's not so much selling, it's how you buy. Because, I mean, take Brighton as a perfect example. They sold Caicedo, or they sold Basuma and brought Caicedo in. They already had him there. They had him on loan in Belgium. They sold Caicedo and then brought in Baleba. So they got him on right twice in a row. You look at Leicester, for example, they sold Fofana to Chelsea and replaced him with Wout Faes. And, the ramifications of that, they went down that season. So you have to... This is like why recruitment's arguably as important as anything else for Premier League club, because it is on a knife edge. You get it right, you'll be fine. You get it wrong, you look at your friend at the table. So... But I think they've more than earned our trust in terms of, who they go out and approach and buy. I'm sure that if they were to, let's say it's Bakayoko, apparently he's going for 20 million, so he's got 1 year left of his contract, for example. On paper, that's a £40 million profit for the club. Obviously, if Bakayoko is him, let's say he gets similar-ish or near enough what Elanga gets, or the dream scenario exceeds it, we're here this time next year saying that was amazing business from Forest, and we're looking at we're starting the process again with other players in the team. So unfortunately, it's just a cyclical part of football nature. It's where we are in the chain. It was one of the things that we all knew could happen as a result of missing out on Champions League. So yeah, it's just football. We have to roll with it, unfortunately, and just do the best we can to replace him as and when the time comes.
I think what's being missed as well, really, is that I don't want to. Of course, I don't want to sell Elanga. I was one of the only ones who was defending Elanga when most of the fan base, let's have it right, wanted Jota to come in for the team early on in the season, and it should have been, we should have snapped Newcastle's hand off for 50 million. Such is the fickle nature of football. You're now seeing this with Morata, ironically. He was at one point a doorman and he's had a few bad games. It's now, let's get rid of him and try Carmo. Well, you can't run a a sustainable business with that kind of mentality of chopping and changing because few people had bad games, etc. But yeah, what's being missed for me is that a lot of fans are missing kind of Elanga wants to go, doesn't he? Why would he not want to go? Come on, let's have it right. They're in the Champions League, so that's the biggest thing. They play in front of 52,000 every week. The likelihood is they've probably got better facilities than Forest because they've been in the Premier League a lot longer than Forest. You can argue, and I'm not going down this road, that they are a bigger club than Forest. Worldwide, they definitely are with a fan base because you're seeing that with the Adidas Original stuff. They get it, we don't. and that's done on bulk buying. So there's several reasons why I would want to go. And people will say, well, he's not come out and said he wants to go. Well, yeah, he doesn't have to come out and publicly declare he wants to go and start kicking the can through the media. That probably actually shows that he's a pretty decent bloke and would rather do it in private. And this is a crappy example, but I'm going to use it anyway. But us guys play FM. You get a player who says, look, I'm interested in this move. What will it take for you to sell me? And as a club, you come back and say, well, we're willing to sell you for probably 60 million. And then his agent and him will go, well, yeah, fair enough. That's not a problem. If you get an offer of 60 million, then we expect you to accept it. And Forest will probably say, yeah, no problem. So what I think will happen is, Mohammed bin Hope up there and the rest of the journalists will say it's 55 million, but it'll be a 60 million pound deal. And it'll probably be 55 million pound up from probably plus add-ons, probably taking it past 60, to be honest. But it'll be referred to as at 55 million pounds because that's the initial fee. Like the add-ons are just equate to zero. It'll probably be add-ons like if Newcastle qualify for the Champions League again, maybe win another cup, etc. But I'd be surprised now it's got this close. Like Christian said, they're not far off, apparently, magic 60 million. And plus, they've been turned down by João Pedro. He's gone elsewhere. Semenyo signed a new deal at Bournemouth. And Buemo is wanting to go to Manchester United. So despite them saying they've got all these options in Europe, domestically, Elanga's probably their only option now. So I do think it'll probably get done, personally, in the next week or so, because I see one of their fans like say Eddie Howe's back from holiday, so it's kind of that it's ramped up a little bit, hasn't it? And they've got no sporting director at the minute, and they'd be silly from their perspective not to back Eddie Howe because they've not spent. I don't think they signed anyone last window, did they? He's got him in the Champions League again, so they'd be silly not to back him because he's done a brilliant job up there. But like Christian said, it's just about, and he's spot on. It's just about the recruitment. If the recruitment's successful, we've seen it. Elanga was going through this purple patch this season when, he was tearing Ipswich apart and he was coming on against Villa and scoring in Manchester United. Nobody's mentioning Brennan Johnson then. But as soon as he has a bad patch, it's, let's try and get Brennan Johnson back, which isn't going to happen anyway. So such as football is a fickle game. So it's all down to recruitment. You replace these players, you move on. It's a business, and if he does go, it's all about Forest having a plan, which I'm sure they've got. It'd be mental if they didn't. And hopefully we can replace him correctly. But we know we need, I'd say, at least two quality. If Elanga does go, they said we need two quality wingers, not really just one. So you're hoping really that Elanga fee can kind of get Bakayoko for the price he's at and someone else who's going to come in and challenge him if he comes in, and Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah, I guess you're looking at 2+ maybe another, unless Nuno's happy with Jota Silva or like you'd want like an up and coming one like Mbangula was. You can nick for probably 10 million. He's going to come in and probably be fourth choice. But if we do get in the Conference League, etc., can get game time in there against the lesser sides, let's say. Yeah. Definitely. Christian, do you think it represents good value for money if it's 55/60 million? Do you think that's good? That's good for us, or do you think we're having Newcastle's pants down a little bit at all? Which is there's a discussion online.
Oh yeah, well, they are going to say that, aren't they? They're idiots. They are. I'm sorry. They are. We know what Newcastle's like as a fan base. We know how delusional they can be. It's just spider.
I've seen that from a couple of
go there.
I've seen that from a couple of our fans, and you can guess who one was.
Well, yeah.
But yeah,
But no, look, from a club perspective, it's fantastic. I mean, we've signed him for 15 million. If he goes for 60, it's a 45 million pound profit on paper. That's fantastic. That's a huge testament to the recruitment team for picking him in the first place for the fee we got him for. Huge testament to the coaching team to develop him into this player. And we can build from that. This is how it goes. We're looking around it now. Kudus is going for has had 55 million rejected, and Bremer's going for 60. If you want a Prem-proven winger, João Pedro's gone for 60, for example. That's the ballpark you're looking for. If you want someone, ultimately Forest were a whisker away from Champions League last year. He was competing at the top end of Elanga, 17 goals assists in the league last year. So, yeah, that's probably the going rate for Premier League winger at this moment in time. And Newcastle won't want to talk anyway. They signed Anthony Gordon at the same age with much less output for 45 million 3 years ago. So, of course, someone with a better figures is going to go for a higher price. So in this market and climate, it's entirely fair enough. And obviously, you can say, Forest going to get the same as what PSG paid for Kvaratskhelia for. Yeah, fine, but that's different league and different finances. It's not. It's not. You can't compare them. This is the world we live in. The Premier League has its own bubble. We know that. Hence why you see teams like Bournemouth, for example, could you Preston, teams like they can beat teams like Juventus or across the European elite to bigger players or better players because they can offer more money. So that's just how it goes. This is how the league goes, and yeah, it's completely fair value for what it's worth. I'm just pleased that above all else, the club are just sticking to their guns. They're not budging. They're going, look, we've laid a table out. If you want him, you have to eat at that table. We're not moving anything. We're not changing anything. We don't care how it's portrayed. And that's exactly how it should be. And like I said, if Newcastle fans thought that it was going to be easiest to prize Marinakis and one of his best players in the value, they had nothing coming. Same bloke who had Daniel Levy on deadline day coughing up £47.5 million for Johnson. He's not, and he said, he actually said, "I'll take a point deduction if it means that we don't get what we want. It is what it is." So
he wanted to get out as well, didn't he? Kvaratskhelia from Napoli, so you're desperate to get out. So you just want
circumstance.
No, I think what probably why, I don't want to sell him. I don't, but I understand both sides because I'm in business myself, and I get it's a business. I think what's not probably helped from a Forest perspective is that magic number has always been 60 million. Whereas, so if it had been reported as we've accepted a 60 million pound bid plus add-ons, I think a lot more fans would have said, well, we're stuck to his guns. But because obviously the PR up in Newcastle are now saying 55 million, that's how they'll frame it for some kind of win as their fans. And I guarantee where if it does go through and it'll be 55 million plus add-ons, I guarantee that's how it'll be reported. And all their fans will be like, oh, I told you we'd get some money off. When it was probably with add-ons, it will be a 60 million pound deal. So it's always in the key of how it's reported. But again, Christian's it's spot on. Marinakis, and we've said this on this pod before, does not sell players on the cheap. It just doesn't. And we don't have to sell Elanga in terms of his contract. We're not desperate because he's gone 3 years on his deal. So we can say, look, we want 60 million. Give us that deal. You can structure it a bit. We'll probably negotiate that. We'll structure it a little bit differently. But I'd be vastly surprised if it isn't a 60 million pound deal, whatever way they want to frame it up there, if it goes through.
Just a quick one to finish. Just a question to the both of you. Do you think this then starts a bit of a domino effect in terms of our transfer business, that once Elanga, it looks like he's going to go. So once he goes, do you think that starts a conveyor belt of we might try and be getting A, B, and C kind of player to come in? Do you think that starts it?
Not as much, no, because it's weird. It's probably the first time in a long, long time where Forest aren't going into market to actively improve the starting 11. If that makes sense. Like we aren't. Obviously you want to improve the team, but we're not going. There's maybe one position in midfield you sort of look at, but even then you've got Sangare and Dominguez. It's difficult how you sort of analyse that. Wood just got 20 Premier League goals. Again, if you want to improve in that position, good luck. You're not going to do that. The players you want to try and replicate that, go for like 100 million plus. Really, look at Isak, etc., etc. You can obviously Hudson-Odoi. We know how important he is to our play. It goes way beyond statistics. He's nailed on starter. Elanga, the numbers speak for themselves. The performance speak for themselves. Anderson, you look at England's next number 8, hopefully. So of course we're not going to look to improve him. Gibbs White. Again, England international, you're not really going to look to improve him. back to Murillo Milenkovic, Champions League level pairing. You aren't going to look to improve that. Williams was one of the best left backs in the league last season. You're not want to improve that. And the same with on the other side. And Sells was the best keeper in the league. So you look through a team from that perspective. And improving that actual starting 11 is very, very difficult. I think the issues that we found, especially with the Juventus pair, was that we're looking at players to improve our depth. We're not quite where Villa are, for example. But we aren't far off where, let's say, if 5 of these players started a league game, we wouldn't be like, okay, we're in trouble here. We're like, okay, good, just still a strong side. Let's go and get the points. But getting players of that nature is very difficult because no one wants to come and sit on the bench. You might get some, like Jesus, for example, who's obviously very ambitious and wants to come in and, prove himself. But I think he isn't coming to Forest knowing he's going to be starting games. I think he's very aware that he's got a tough ask ahead of him to sort of budge Wood out the way. But that's the sort of player you want. You want someone with that mindset to sort of go, okay, yeah, I might not be first choice, but I want to be first choice. I'll make sure I am. But getting those players is tricky because it's a lot of negotiating to sort of get to that point. So I don't think it's a case of, oh yeah, we've got 60 million in the coffers, let's go on a frenzy. I think generally speaking, the only thing that changes is that we then look for a first choice right winger to replace Elanga. In terms of our actual plan, it'll probably be exactly the same.
I think it will ramp up the business in terms of we can probably look for maybe a higher quality of player because we'll have more expenditure from the Elanga deal. I think that is, again, something that's being missed. Everyone's saying, oh yeah, go out and get this player, go out and get that player. And it's like, well, we're on a budget here. We are against PSR. You can't just go out and sign Visser for 50 million or Madueke for 50 million. The club have got a budget. And if they need, like we've spoken about on this pod, if they need half dozen to 8 players and the budget's 100 million, well, you've got it's like 10, 12 million per player. So you can't go out and sign one bloke for 50 million. Yeah, you've got to be clever. And this is what we've done. And you look at our starting lineup of the costs. Sells 5 million, Aina 3, Milenkovic 12, Murillo 10, Williams 17, Dominguez 10, Anderson 15, Hudson-Odoi 3, Elanga 15, Gibbs-White 25 initially, Wood 15. 10 out of 11 of them are all 10 to 20 million bracket. That is the bracket we're probably going to be in. Like Bakayoko, 20 million. They're not going to be Forest. Now they're not in the Champions League. They're not this like, oh yeah, we're going to go out and sign Kuhn of 60 million. I just can't see that happening anymore. It's going to be these 10, 20 million pound players, and you're hoping that they come in like Anderson did at 15 million, whatever they want to report it up there. Milenkovic at 12 million, and they come in and they become a first teamer. That's what Forest are kind of hoping for. And it's just that I know it's tough, but you just got to get more hits than misses. So you need, like I say, if we can get a couple of wingers, say Bakayoko, if Elanga goes at 20, another winger at 20, and you think, well, actually them two are quite good and they could vie for one another. And if Hudson-Odoi has a couple of bad games, they could take over his position. Same with like Wood if he's a little bit leggy. Jesus can come in at 10 million and offer us something. That's what we're kind of looking for from his players off the bench. It's just last season, there was odd times they'd offer us something, but then Nuno was like, well, I'm not too sure about them. And, in the end, we ended up playing with the same probably 14 players by the end. And, we burnt out, didn't we? In reality, let's be honest, people were playing with injuries. So yeah, I'd expect it to ramp up if Elanga goes, and it will give us, some more probably budget across the board, but I wouldn't expect us to go absolutely mental and go out and, well, there was that rumour, wasn't there? We had that Fofana bid accepted. What was that like? Quite a bit, to be fair. So it kind of fingers my point, and if that is true, but you can kind of spread the costs for a few of these players as well, can't you? At least with PSR, but yeah, we'll have to see what happens. We know we need players regardless if Elanga goes or not. So if he does go, then hopefully it means like when Brennan Johnson went, for example, we signed Hudson-Odoi, we signed Dominguez, we signed Sangare. We signed a few others as well, but there's 3 players who are still part of his kind of core side now. So you're just looking, if he goes, can you get 3 or 4 players who are going to be part of this core group who are all good enough to play first team games? That's kind of the hope, really, if he does go.
I think the one thing it does help with is if you want a winger specifically and you say, well, you're going to start because our right winger is departing. I think that helps in your negotiations.
Of course it does.
So that gives us a little bit more scope. But I think that kind of ends the Elanga chat until finally that gets.
That's probably what's happened with Truffey to Bournemouth. Like Percy said, he's one of our top targets for a left back. He looks at Forest. Nico Williams has been brilliant there. I've got to dislodge him. Bournemouth, Kirkes is off to Liverpool. They'd probably say you're going to come in and replace him straight in. He'd be like, yeah, I want to play football. It's a World Cup year for France, so I want to play.
Absolutely. Moving swiftly on, Tyler Bindon has joined Sheffield United. He joins Ruben Sellers, who was his manager at Reading. Obviously, there is contrasting opinions about this, Christian, because of it being Sheffield United. But let's take all of that out of it. It's a very good loan signing. I think it's a good club to go to in terms of he's going to probably play because of the manager. I think he'll probably play in a system that's similar to us because of how Sheffield United have tended to play in the last few years with either a 3 or a 4. So it's good, isn't it? Really, I think it's good.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, if you take away the fact it's helping them out, which is an unfortunate sort of byproduct of what's happened, he's going to a team that's expected to challenge for the league. He'll probably start every game. He knows the manager. The manager knows how he wants to play him exactly. You can't really ask for much more, really. I think if you're going to loan a player out, that takes every single box going. He's going to be, expecting to win every single match. Okay, the expectation level of Sheffield United can be less than they are at Forest, but their expectation will be promotion top 2. Anything less than that will be a failure. Every loss will be hammered to the point to them. It'll be an environment now where anything but winning is not acceptable, and that's what we have at Forest. So, yeah, it's a very good move for him. It's again, you can't really. It's just unfortunate. It's Sheffield United. That's the only thing wrong. If it was like, generic team championship for the league that we had no real relationship with, we'd be like, oh great, everyone will be buzzing for him. But because it's them, it's sort of like, oh Christ. Right? But this is football ultimately, and he's still our player, and I'm pretty sure that come this time next year, their fans will be absolutely gutted to see him come to us. So that's the best case scenario.
That's the message from Reading fans, especially to Sheffield United fans. So that's an interesting. Reece, do you think it's quite an exciting one in terms of our point of view? Because we've been loaning young players out into like League One and League Two. This is the first time we've loaned a player to a championship side. And I know what we've just said about Sheffield United, but they are going to be challenging, as Christian says. They are a big club in that league. So it's quite an exciting one in terms of us, because we've obviously then got a player on our hands that you'd like to think is capable. It kind of springs to mind of that Ben White to Leeds when he was at Brighton before he moved to Arsenal. It kind of gives me that kind of vibe.
Yeah, for the hype's to be believed, mate. I don't think. Well, I know I certainly haven't, but I don't think many people have been watching Reading, so we kind of don't know. And until you go up the levels in any sport, you don't really know what you're kind of going to get. You always can say, yeah, I think you can do it, but until we actually do it, you don't really know. So, but yeah, I agree with what Christian said. It's always nice to help lesser teams out, especially them. I'll say expletive because I would like to call them something else because I absolutely detest them. I do. But at the end of the day, I can oversee that because it will benefit Forest if the loan move is successful. And to be honest, I put this on my Twitter. Too many of our players have had crappy loan moves. And this on the face of it, get away from it's them. Like Christian said, you've got a manager who knows him. He knows the manager. He got the best out of him at Reading. So it seems a perfect fit, doesn't it, on the face of it. So yeah, you're hoping he does really well there, and he's one of the best centre backs in that league. I mean, hopefully they'll lose in the playoff final again. That'd do nicely for us, I think. And he has a great season, and he wins Player of the Season for me. He has a great season. That'd do nicely. And then he comes to us, and you think, well, because at some point as well, you've got to think short term, Murillo and Milenkovic aren't going to get knocked out their spots, but at some point, Murillo's probably going to leave, isn't he? Let's be honest, he's probably going to leave at some point. So you need to think long term and think, if Murillo does go, who we got coming in behind him? We've got possibly this lad from Botafogo coming in. He's one contender. Willy Bolly's probably going to go at the end of next season. Murato, what we've seen of him so far, isn't probably going to be at that level, is he? He's more of a sub, let's be honest, who come on and sees games out. So you're looking at the likes of Cunha and this guy Bindon, if all the hype is to be to believe, maybe to come in and take over the reins one day. So, hopefully he does well, but not too well that they benefit in terms of higher status. Because, on the face of it, I can see past that. And I think I think on paper, it looks the ideal move to me personally.
Yeah, and a World Cup year for New Zealand, and he'll be part of it with our very own Chris Wood as well. So.
Beating New Caledonia, such as FIFA's great qualifying nowadays.
That's it. And then last of all on transfers and news is Lewis O'Brien is potentially going to Wrexham. Reese, I mean, it's a great deal if it comes off. £5 million is the spoken kind of figure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that'd be incredible because he's not played for us for what, about 2-3 years?
Yeah, well, I mean,
it seems like anyway.
As well, because on the book, it'll probably be about 2.5 million on the book value, 2 million, 2.5 million. So you make profit on a player who is surplus to requirements. Look, when we signed O'Brien, he was literally the type of player I wanted us to look at. Had a brilliant season in the Championship, young at the time. I think he was probably 23, was he, when we signed him, maybe, up and coming. He was someone who I thought, when we was in the Championship, the home game where they beat us, who was one of the only players who I thought got the better of James Garner and Yatesy in that midfield that year. And he actually started pretty well at Forest, and then all of a sudden it just kind of went downhill, didn't it? And, it's never looked back. And in the end, he's gone globe-trotting, hasn't he, really? He's ended up at, was it DC with Rooney, wasn't he, at first, and he was in LA, and then he's been at Swansea, which is a bit of a difference. But, Championship level, I'd still imagine he's very good at that level. I mean, I see in the Swansea fans, because he overtook from Matt Grimes until he went to Coventry. They were raving about him. At that level, he's still more than capable. So for someone like Wrexham, who's just come up into that league, I think that would be a terrific signing. I think it'd be a great deal all round. I know there was mention, it is the sun, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt, but there might be an issue with the wages, but it might be a case of Forest having to, last year of his deal, contribute some of his wages to get it over the line. So if it makes financial sense for Forest to do that, then I think it's a sensible move all around, isn't it? And it's just one that, had good intentions and the type of players I think we should be signing for his first year back in the Prem, but just for some reason or another, just hasn't worked out. And in the end, we're going to make a profit on the books, and that's what it's all about if we don't make these moves work, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any last words, Christian?
No, really. I think that's it's a bit of a shame how it all ended with O'Brien. Really, obviously, like I said, Ray said, started off very well. Something seemed to happen because I think he lost a lot of weight and then just didn't get his place back. Went out on loan to try and regain his form. Couldn't go initially at the Blackburn because of that debacle. Ended up going to DC United instead. And then just that was it. Like, obviously, circumstances change, things change, etc., etc. And a bit of a real shame, really, because he looked quite handy initially, but good luck to the bloke. Shame it didn't work out for him properly at Forest. Obviously, did get a Premier League goal against Fulham. But I think interesting. I think the source is while it is the Sun, it is it's Nixon, isn't it? He's reported it, and Nixon. No, I know. Normally, I would agree with you, but Nixon has been. He obviously has some sort of inside link with O'Brien because every single thing O'Brien does, Nixon is always the first one to report it, and it's always spot on. So he was there with the exclusive to us, I'm pretty sure. And then obviously Percy came in and said that the medical was an issue. Obviously, he always loan moves. He's been the first one to report it, and this is no different now. So £5 million is good for Forest. Obviously, I think even at face value, we bought him for 8, we sold him for 5. It's not that big a drop, really, especially last year contract, etc. I expect it to be a lot lower than that, given that his last year contract hasn't played for the club in, since 2022. Or 23 competitively. It was that Blackpool game I think he played in the cup match. But it's a good move for the club, and probably a good move for the player as well. I mean, all the publicity Wrexham can give him, I'm sure it'll probably be enticing to some players who want to go there. Obviously, it's a big project going on at Wrexham as well to sort of solidify them as a Championship club and push on top flight again. So it looks like a case where everyone's going to win. So fingers crossed that's the case.
I think he was part of that group at Blackpool, wanted that cup debacle where I think he just finished a few players, to be honest. I'm looking at the team now. I'm looking at Cook, McKenna, O'Brien, obviously Scarpa never really, Dennis, Surridge. No, the only player who's still with us from that day in terms of got a future is Nico Williams, and he had a disaster that day. So I think Cooper just probably had enough of some of them that day, and
scored
at Denner. He did. He come on and scored, and I mean Dennis and Surridge must have missed half a dozen gilt-edged chances between them.
Awful.
It was that bad.
Awful. Scarpa was the only one who came out there and really sort of credit, really. But,
I did enjoy that day of travelling up and being absolutely fuming because we just lost to a side who was about to go down to League One, and people on Twitter telling me I shouldn't be arsed, who sat on the backside at home. But
Lewis and Brian might make a late appearance in your mini-series, Reese, but we'll keep that under wraps for now, which people are enjoying. We are going to move on to something a little bit more fun. I mean, it's a bit detrimental as well in terms of Forest's worst 11. I mean, I don't know how you want to go about this, guys. I don't know if you want to do like each position first or just do your whole 11. What's taking your fancy?
I think we should do the whole 11 rather than going back and forth. Do you think?
Okay, we'll do a whole 11. Any requests to go first at all?
Up to you, Christian.
That's me. Oh God. I'll have to go first if you want. Yeah.
We'll go Christian first. Okay, so we'll bring your team up first, Christian. So I'll read it out and then we'll go through each player, I guess. So Matt Turner in goal, Nicky Eden, Danny Cullop, Andy Melville, Dan Harding, Harry Arter, Danny Sommer, John Joe Shelby, Nicolau Dimitru, Eugene Daddy, and Diakami. I forgot his first name. Actually.
That is slightly wrong. I haven't got Daddy in my team. I have Scott Dobie up front.
Scott Dobie up front. Oh, it's because I've just.
And it is Daddy Sonner as well, not Jan Sommer.
I said Daddy Sonner.
No, it's got double M. It's double N.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Lastminute.com. This for me.
Christian should have sent it. She should have been prepared.
They send it.
He didn't send it me. He didn't send it me.
You spelled Daddy Sonner wrong now.
I sent it at 10 to 10 last night.
You know me. I've done Tough Mudder, guys. I'm raising loads of money for charity. I'm knackered. That's my excuse. Okay, right. But no, let's go through it anyway. I mean, let's pretend Eugene Daddy is actually Scott Dobie for one. But Matt Turner in goal, then Christian. I mean, I don't think anyone really needs to hear it, but we will.
Simply the worst goalkeepers club's ever employed. I'm sorry. There's
still implies.
Oh, Christ. Honestly, it's just I've never seen a goalkeeper more colossally out of their depth than they have been at the level the Forest have been at. Like even like people say to me about about Barry Roach and Jordan Smith and XYZ that I can throw in R.M. Murick for that matter on loan. You can say Stojkovic was another one we had that was. The thing is, some of these players, Stephen Henderson, one of Lee's favourites. You go even further back, you got Pascolo in the late 90s, who played like 6 times and disappeared off the face of the earth. It was terrible. You look at all these sorts of players, and it's sort of like, okay, but for the level they were at, they still offered Forest something. There was still, they were wrong, mostly bad, but there were still redeeming factors. Smith had that save at Ipswich, for example. Roach, I think he made a decent few saves, for example. Okay, he's sort of defined by the coffee cup at Derby, but by and large, okay, he wasn't great, but wasn't abysmal. Stojkovic had the ability to do something out of his world in terms of put out a save from the top corner and then just let an absolute P-roller just go straight for his legs, like literally 2 minutes later. So they all had something they could offer. Turner doesn't. He doesn't at all. I've never in my life seen defenders actively refuse to pass the goalkeeper the ball and would rather give away corners and set pieces to make sure he doesn't go back to him. His kicking is the worst I've ever seen. We look at it's like he's wearing golf shoes when he gets the ball. It's like a grenade every time it comes to his feet. Spurs at home at fault for second goal. Man United at home at fault for their goal just by kicking it straight to their players. Just absolute. The panic he caused the defence, the panic he caused as fans. There was no. And I remember when we beat United 2-1, and went, "Oh, that's a great save from Turner, from Ericsson." It's like straight at him. I'm sorry, and if he's letting that one in, just ban him from the ground. Don't even let him play for the club again. Absolutely abject for the level we're at. I cannot believe we spent sanctioned £7 million on him. Absolute desperation because we couldn't get Henderson over the line in time because United are being silly and we weren't willing to sort of meet in the middle there. Just a disaster. Absolute disaster of a signing. And the sideshow that came with it as well. All the Americans typing up, like trying to make out they know more about football than we do when they watch a TV show and we actually live it, experience and breathe it. The worst. Absolute worst.
You can't have a rant for every single one of these players, sure.
I won't, don't worry.
just Matt Turner and probably John Joe Shelby because they're more recent, and maybe Harry Arthur, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, moving swiftly on, we'll go Nicky Eden. We'll go right back to left back.
Yeah.
So go on, Nicky Eden.
When we got him and Brecken at the same time, Brecken was good, Eden was crap. He was just like every time, even he's running. It didn't matter what minute the game was in. He just looked like he was running through treacle. He just had no pace whatsoever. Just terrible indictment at the time for her in. Cullip, again, I remember being at Brighton away. I think it was in the JPT. No, Gillingham away, sorry, in JPT. We won it 2-1. But you looked at him before, how are you playing for Forest, mate? Come on. Like, just again.
The story about Cullip is a couple of friends went to a show with Neil Warnock. I can't remember when they went in the last year or so, but apparently after 20 minutes of signing Cullip, he said he'd seen enough and sold him to us.
Yeah.
So that's
you could see why. He just wasn't very good. Melville, I was initially trying to keep out loan players, but then obviously we changed that rule. Ipswich away when we lost 6-0, and Darren and Marcus Bent just looked at him and went, right, dinner's on, boys. Off we go. I think we had a back five that day as well, which made it even worse. He's like he wasn't even on the pitch. They just ran at him every single time and scored 6 goals as a result of it. A key reason why we went down with Megson that year. Harding at left back, Jesus, just the Dan Harding special, as we call it now, for a fullback having a bad game. He was shocking. Like again, it was weird because he was part of that team that got promoted at Southampton. Him and Danny Fox were left backs that season. We signed both, and both were terrible. But Harding was especially bad. You could see within 2 games we needed to replace him, and unfortunately we didn't.
Did you go to the Huddersfield game when we were 1-0 up? Simon Cox scored. This was under Sean O'Driscoll. 1-0 up, last minute. They were going nowhere in the box. You seen them down the line and dived in and just brought their player down. And Jordan Rose equalised from the penalty. And I remember Sean O'Driscoll, who was obviously dead mild-mannered, going absolutely ballistic at the end of the game, like on the touchline, like, why are you done that?
He just, honestly, every single time a winger went up against him, you thought he's going to beat him. You just knew the winger was going to take it round him. Danny Sonner, Walsall legends, Forest disaster class. Just bad. Just bad. Again, there was a lot of contenders here. Could have had Michael Stewart in there. He was also awful. But Sonner was just, again, it's just Gary Holt was another one at that time where, you see Forest swan out in a Brazil kit and play anything like Brazil. Just not good enough for the level we were at. Just really, really poor. Shelby, oh my God, like the absolute gremlin. How it's more the audacity. In fact, what would he go down for at Forest apart from assisting? Was it Boubacar Traore or his name was at Villa away?
Bertrand
Traore, sorry. He was.
He's going to go down for showing a bird his YouTube highlights. That's what
it inspired Chris Ward. Chris Ward was inspired off that.
Yeah. Well, he was a joke for play. The fact that the thing that led to his demise as well, supposedly, is that he, after costing us that game at Villa, and obviously was injured, then had the audacity to start screaming, shouting at Cooper in front of everyone, demanding why he'd been dropped for Liverpool away, having played that badly with an injury. Says everything you need to know about the ego of that man. There's a reason why he went to Turkey. There's a reason why he went to Burnley, played about twice and got released. He's crap. Absolute crap. So glad he's gone. And Arthur next to him. I mean, Arthur epitomises the worst in footballers. And this is one of the reasons why I got Reno Daryl Murphy as well when he played for us, in that they're too crap and too slow to keep up with play and start throwing their hands around and blaming everyone else around them for their own mistakes. And I can't blame him for the contract he got. I cannot blame him for seeing it out and just sitting there on his hands and doing nothing wrong. Can blame him for being an absolute joke on the pitch when he played. Big financial mishap, that one. Diakabi, I mean, that first touch will live in history against Fulham. The one that went out for a bloody goal kick by the halfway line.
It gets shown so many times every season.
It's one of the worst things I've seen a professional footballer do. Genuinely, I don't know how it's possible even now. Yeah, shambles. I mean, that January we signed what? Diakabi, Bong, and Jenkinson. We talk about recruitment at the top of the show. That's probably the worst winner we've ever had. Given the position we were in, like absolute shocking. Dimitri was just a joke, wasn't he? Let's be real. I mean, we came from Napoli, high expectations, and I remember he scored against Newcastle, and it was like a midweek game because I remember being out at the time. It was Newcastle away. The notification came through by phone. I just laughed. I could not believe he'd actually scored. I just burst out laughing. He just looked like he'd fall over the ball every time it came near him. It was like rock hard touch every time. Again, perfect for Wild's era signing. And up front, Scott Dobie, good marksman in the Premier League for West Brom, had a decent-ish career, came to Forest, and like, you know, he's one of those where if he shot at someone, they'd still be alive sort of thing. He just couldn't see him hit a barn door for us. Absolutely atrocious footballer for Forest. And yeah, that's my team. Gary Megson in charge of Martin O'Neill's assistant.
Scored past Yeovil, didn't he, Davey, in the playoff, the famous playoff game?
Great. Yeah.
I mean, a fantastic worst best 11, I guess. But we'll move on to yours and really see how many you've got the same. I'd like to think I didn't make any mishaps with this because you sent it me. So for the audio listeners, I'll read it out. It's Shidar's 4-4-2 as Reese put to us in the chat. It's Muric in goal, Nicky Eden, Kevin Gomez, Andy Melville, Gaetan Bong at the back, Diakabi, Danny Sonner, Harry Arter, and Dimitri across the field. So you got pretty much that's like 4 there that of your midfield. Eugene Daddy actually is Eugene Daddy with Rafik Jabor up top. So let's start with the goalkeeper again.
Well,
Muric played what 1 or 2 games for us and then got bombed off back for Samba, thankfully.
I know Christian said, you got it should be a minimum of games. I was speaking to Alex about this as well, who does the pod. But when they've played 1 game and then been bombed, that says everything you need to know about players. If they've been played 1 or 2 games and then been bombed and never seen again, then you just know they're useless. But to be fair, out of respect that he's still at Forest, I would have had Turner in goal. But because he's still at us, I'll give him the littlest respect. If he'd have gone to Leon yesterday, he'd have been in. Because like Christian said, if we can now, people say about there's been worse goalkeepers, and they probably have. But if we're going on the level what Turner is playing at, he never in a million years been a Premier League goalkeeper, and you've seen that, and you was frightened to death anytime it went near him. At least like Muric can kick a ball, you know what I mean? So. I mean, Muric is probably, and I did think about reputations of some players, but because he come in, he was City's number 2, and he actually played quite a bit for City in the Carabao Cup run, I think, the season before. I remember at Leicester away, saved like a couple of penalties and he got through. So I remember Pep being on the pitch. It was the first kind of time when he was leading the Guardiola chants, etc. And he come and his debut. I mean, he was scouted by Martin O'Neill, ironically, which makes it even more why I put him in there. Because I remember fans at the time being, it's so good seeing a manager going out to scout a player. Like, well, yeah, it's his job. Such was the level of toxicity of that appointment. But yeah, he came with his reputation, and his first game was a disaster against West Brom. You know, it was an error from the first goal. He got lobbed for the second. And then Lamouchi straight away saw it, brought Brice Samba in and quickly got him in the team, and we never kind of saw him again. And there was rumours that he never integrated with the squad. I think there was it Dan Taylor put that he used to turn up in like an orange Chevy or something like that with his agent or something. And that just did not work out. I could have easily put Barry Roach in there as well. Like Christian said, his legacy will always be that coffee cup at Derby, unfortunately for him. Nicky Eden, there was no doubt about it. And to be fair, in this day and age when footballers don't take accountability, you know, we've seen one recently on another podcast not take any accountability. Nicky Eden said he was past his best at Forest and it was clear his legs had gone. With Megson's regime as well, he was just overweight, slow. There was a game, I'll remember, I think it was a Friday night, we lost at home to Barnsley 2-0 and League One. I remember him chasing somebody back and shocking. And it was strange because like Christian said, he came with Ian Brecken and they'd actually just been promoted and been pretty much mainstays with Wigan. They'd been promoted to the Premier League. So you think dropping into League One, it'd be a great signing, but that was a disaster. Bong is arguably, for me, behind Danny Sonner, as the worst player I've ever seen play for Forest. And again, someone who did really well at Brighton, but Brighton knew perfectly when to sell him. His debut against Charlton, a disaster, as it was for the whole club, really. I remember someone passing him a ball, it rolled straight under his foot. I remember during COVID at Brentford away, he gave a penalty where he was all over the place. And then because obviously Chris Hughton didn't want to sign anybody in that season, we had to play him at Derby away, and he got that assist, let's say, where it was shocking goalkeeping from Keller Roos, what allowed Johnson's shot to creep in and under him. And then there was a point when I think Max Loner, Osei Tutu, got injured, so Cooper had to play him at West Brom away, and he just wouldn't cross the halfway line. And he was like crossing from the halfway line, and Cooper had seen enough that he decided to play centre mid at left back for the rest of the season. That's how poor he was. Kevin Gomez, 1 game, 1 loss, 1 yellow card, never seen again. Typical foul signing. Played for Dundee after Forest. That summed up his career. Andy Melville, again, it was that bad under Megson in that championship season when we went down that I remember Melville running back as a kid. And this is me as a kid, not Andy Melville, because he was way over the hill by then. And he was running back and he booted the ball into Rose Ed, and we'd been that bad. Folk was clapping it and was like, that's what we need. That is how bad what it was under Megson. But he was so slow, just running in treacle. Same with Nicky Eden. Diakarby, he had a touch. I mean, what Huddersfield paid for him, was it 6-7 million? Maybe even more.
I think it was like 12.
I mean, it's just a shocking January window that season, which was summed up by him. He was dreadful. Dimitro, again, signed as a replacement, and his other mate could have got in as well. Leaker, another disaster of a signing under Fawaz. Banked 15 million, spent 300 grand on Leaker and Dimitro on loan. Both absolutely useless. And then, and we had a winger who was absolutely on fire at the time. And these guys were, and he actually said he could be the man to replace Ollie Burke. 1 goal, now playing in, I think, Indonesia or Malaysia, one of the two. Rubbish. Danny Sonner, for me, is still probably the worst player I've seen for Forest, because he was brought on the back of that playoff season under Paul Hart, and we signed him, Michael Stewart, who was also absolutely useless on loan from Man U, and Brynjar Gunnarsson, who actually was okay and did actually go on to do well with Reading. So at least you could see a bit of a player in there. But I always remember Sonner against Derby at home. This was when Junior had scored for them and Andy Reid equalised. And weirdly, Derby wore a blue kit that day. I've never seen as any team wearing an away kit in that fixture apart from that. And he got on his hands and knees pretty much to head it. All he had to do is hit the target to head in at the back post against Derby to win us the game, and he put it wide. Yeah, again, way over that. Signed from Warsaw. We're signing 3 transfers from Blue Warsaw who are over the hill. That summed that move up. Harry Arter, I mean, brought, let's be honest, on that back of that goal during COVID for Fulham. The money was spent on him, the wages. I mean, he was still at the club when he was in the Premier League. There was the stupid deal, what if we did get promoted, which he actually, and like Christian said, you can't have a go at the guy for the contract he was given, but it was so stupid. He'd literally not contributed anything, and he got his wages doubled when we got promoted, apparently. And then he was still on the books. What was it, 1 or 2 seasons later? Was it last summer? Wanted Harry Arter went, because I remember singing it at Burnley 4 more years. So for what he cost and the wages and that and what he contributed, yeah. And I easily could have put Daryl Powell in there. Could have easily put Michael Stewart in there. Shelby, another. Ebicio. Tishabola. So many signings under Fawaz and other bad times in League One where you could have easily put players in. The strikers easily could have gone Andre Ayew, come in, missed 1 penalty, did nothing else. Bonatini, useless. I mean, for the reputation he had at Wolfridge, scored all them goals. Makeda, I remember that the game when we lost at Derby 1-0 when I think Andy Reid and Paul Williams were manager, just chasing the ball. I just could get nowhere near the ball because he was just so unfit. But I went with, Eugene Daddy let go by Tranmere, a typical Megson signing. Absolutely rubbish. Couldn't even score past Woking in the, what would it have been then? What was it called originally? The Johnson's Paint Trophy. LDV Vans Trophy. That's what it would have been. It's just come to me. It's all coming back to me now.
Bad memories.
Rubbish. And I put Jabor in because he did score, but that goal he scored, he still even nearly missed that. It come across to him and it hit him. And like a probably normal striker just like use a body part, just nudge it in, it like hit him in the belly and like as if he was like having a fit to try and like get it over the line. And he was, I think, £2 million nicknamed the terrorist from Olympiacos. We even had Billy on. He clearly refused to play, didn't he, by the end, pulled out with a make-believe injury. I think we signed him in the January, and by the July, that his contract ripped up for £2 million. I think it was. That's some sort. And there's loads more. There really could be loads more. Jess, who we have on the pod, come up with a good one in a high profile, and Tom Ince, who used to come out and say he was like man of the match. Awful. Absolutely awful. But at least he went on and had a decent career, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's my team. And you could make a case for so many others, you really could, but I'll leave it to that.
Yeah, there's definitely.
And the manager, without a shadow of a doubt, and this is the one I'll argue with anybody, the worst manager in Forest history. People can say David Blatt, they can say others, Gary Megson, without a doubt. Oversaw some of the worst results in our history, lost to Woking, lost to Chester, got took to a replay by Weymouth, right? And we struggled in that replay as well. They hit the post early on. We actually thankfully won. But just some of the result, I think we lost to Macclesfield in the cup under him as well, who were in League Two at the time. Just some of the Plymouth home game. I think you'll remember that, Christian, 3-0 at home to Plymouth when someone ran and actually chucked the season ticket at him.
There, yeah.
And that was just such a strange appointment. I was, Nigel, God bless him, but such an un-Forest appointment. And I'm amazed he lasted as long as he did and he alienated so many players. I don't think, at least with I'll give you an example, like Alex McLeish. We went to Derby away and we would have won the game if it weren't for Gillett, made that error and Ward scored, hit the post late on. You could say, yeah, look, he's gone out there's a performance there. Other managers like O'Neill, we beat, as crap as he was as well, we beat Derby at home. There was odd games, but Megson, honestly, you could not say there was a game of significance where you think, yeah, him as a manager. Shocking.
I guess this just gives you a lot of perspective of where we've come in
it does, yeah. I said this in a group chat yesterday to the guys who've got kids in there, who obviously young kids, and Wheeler, his young girl Rosie, her first season was a promotion season. She's had promotion season, stayed up, got into Europe in 4 seasons, whereas my first season ticket season was the Paul Art season, which was a brilliant season. But then the decline from that season, which was basically nearly went down the season after got Joe Kinnear in, saved us. Then went Kinnear to Megson, went down, and then spent 3 seasons in League One. And then had all the playoff failures to go with it.
I remember I've seen you're walking back to the car from Premier League games now, and then some kids we've won, and kids with their dads or whatever, they're like, "Oh, that was amazing!" And they're like, "Yeah, it was really good." And I'm like, "You don't know how lucky you got." You're a little kid. I'll just read out
Salisbury, for goodness' sake. Honestly,
I'll just read out Lee's and a little quote. So he had Matt Turner in goal, Nicky Eden, Danny Cullop, Melville, Padula at the back, Kevin James, Cal Ebesilio, Michael Stewart, Diakabi, Eugene Daddy, and Neil Harris. And what Lee said about each of these is on the wrong chat. So he said, Turner, no keeper scared me to death quite like him. Eden, awful, slowest player we've ever had. Cullip, talked the talk, didn't walk the walk, epitomised Megson's reign. Melville signed him too late, contributed to Destination League One. Padula, the best thing he did was take Megson out with a slide tackle at Barnsley away. Kevin James, purely for the Plymouth home game, possibly the worst solo performance I've ever witnessed. Ebesilio subbed on, then off at QPR away. Did he win a raffle? I remember him getting subbed on and off at home, but I don't know. Michael Stewart came through the ranks at Manchester United, which struggled for a game with Ashton United on his performances for us. Diakabi, comfortably the worst loan player we've ever had. How much did Huddersfield pay for him? Harris, bless him, a Millwall legend, but his time at Forest was abysmal. Daddy, lead boots, clunky, struggled massively. So there's that. I mean, we asked from people online. Binnett put Pantilimon in goal, Jenkinson, Lamb, Matt Mills, Bong, midfield Diakabi, Ariibi, Arter, Dimitri, Salenzi, and Bender up top. Subs Stojkovic, Turner, Eden, Manini, Cummings, Daddy, and Traore. I mean, I don't think Jason Cummings or Matt Mills should be really in there. But like Matt Mills,
didn't even play for us. I'm pretty sure he didn't.
I don't think he did.
Sat on the bench and go, yeah.
Matt Mills was a top scorer for us at one point under Dougie Freeman. So.
Mills was decent under Dougie.
Yeah, I will say I wouldn't put Mills in, although I can understand the anger towards it because he infuriated me like no other. He obviously did not understand at all what club he was playing for.
What thing you mean about Mills? What it was? He clearly only wanted to play under Dougie Freedman. He didn't want to play with any other manager.
Yeah,
I think that was
Craig Biddleston's put Bong, Daddy, Manini, Andy Cole, Nicky Eden, Tishabola, Barmby, Powell, Ian Turner, Michael Chopra, and that's just off the top of my head. We've had plenty of Joss in the 42 years that he's watched Forest. Jay put Arnett Muric and Eugene Daddy. Sam, Danny Sonner, Eugene Daddy, Diakabi, Muric, Ayu, Shelby, Gregor Robertson, Barry Roach, to name a few. Diakabi named 4 times by Paul Walker. Anyone naming Todger Strunk has put anyone naming anyone from the championship season is wrong. The correct answer is the Gary Megson League One side.
It's a fair argument.
Kay Panossi in functions put Rafa Mir, Leo Bonatini, Dimitri, Tashidis, Kevin James, Lars Veldvik. I mean, at least with Rafa Mir, his saving graces, he's had actually a really good career with
Mir is a great shot. He was terrible.
He was Wigan away, weren't it?
Yeah, they got away, through, and he's like just. Even the one, Leeds away when he should have scored himself and he like scuffed it and obviously Graben turned it in, didn't he? If you remember that 1-1 draw at Leeds. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I put him on my honourable mention, to be fair. Luke Bowers, Gina Padula, Diakabi, any of Platt's Italian trio, Neil Harris, Harry Arter, Gary Ball and Salenzi, Jabor, Abdoun, Bong. That's the few. I mean, on mine, I put Thomas Lamb. I put Ross McCormack because of like the reputation he had. He had health problems, didn't he, McCormack? He did, he did.
He had cyst in his jaw, I think.
Yeah, very bad. Barry Roach, Salenzi. I put Thomas Lamb because, I mean, for a defender, he could score goals, but he couldn't defend. So that was just Montagnier was like one of the biggest disappointments because I thought, come from Rennes, like brought Moussa Dembele and Antoine Griezmann through the ranks at Rennes. It was absolutely atrocious.
I did feel for Montagnier though, because he actually started okay, and then Fawaz pulled the rug. I think we beat Wigan, Burton, and Leeds in that first month, so we started okay, and then Fawaz and then what did he do? He banked the money and signed Dimitri and Lika. Yeah, it's like Liverpool selling Mo Salah now and signing. A couple of League One players to replace him. It's just,
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, a fun little one. I mean, I'm pretty sure we could do like a loans one or something, or something. There's plenty to go off for this sort of thing. But it does just bring it into perspective of like where we've come from, because it's night and day. Like I can't believe some of the players we're watching right now in the current state, because you're quite grateful, aren't you? Like the likes of Murillo with raking passes and charging runs, and Gibbs White with flicks and tricks, and Hudson-Odoi bending ones in at Anfield away. So absolutely brilliant. But just to round it off, we do want to send our best wishes and our thoughts and prayers and all the love is with Diego Jota and everyone involved with his family and Liverpool. It's an absolute, it's a travesty, really. Someone so young, only got married like last week, 3 kids as well. It's really, really sad to see and sad way to go in that sense. And yeah, no one should. It's just rubbish. I can't really put words into it of what's happened. So our thoughts and prayers go out to all involved with him and his family. So yeah, sad one to put for it. But for now, this is the end of the pod. Until next time, when there's probably a bit more. We'll actually all at we're all at Chesterfield away, aren't we, guys? The 3 of us next Saturday. So if anyone sees us, come say hello. We're happy to have a chat, obviously, about everything that's going on. Have a drink. So that'll be good to get football back. None of this.
Give us your worst 11, and we'll have a rant about how bad they was.
Yeah. Well, come give us your best 11. I mean, that'll be some tasks. Yeah. Until next time, until the next pod. We'll see you then. Come on, you Reds.